Imagine you're going to the Middle East for the first time in 2026 with everything going on. What are your expectations? Is it war, geopolitics, hypermodern cities? What if there is a place with none of that? A hidden little oasis that apparently is not just one of the safest countries on earth, but also one of the prettiest. A place that gets very few tourists, but those who go all seem to tell similar stories of a friendly, welcoming people, a rich, ancient culture, and English as an official language. All right, I got to see this place for myself. The Sultanate of Oman. I met up with my friends and we spent 2 wild weeks here, chasing adventures, rugged natural beauty, and that one perfect shot that seemed more impossible to get with every day that passed. At the end of it, we left with a feeling like we had somehow been changed, a feeling I'm going to attempt to share with you. So here's the story of some longtime friends who took an epic road trip to explore one of this world's truly special places and felt like they were changed along the way. Or something like that. I'll work on the title. Immediately on landing, I got a taste as to why this country is so safe, because I was attempting to bring something across the border and they do not take that behavior lightly. But I had to try, because if you're gonna fly 7,864 miles to see a place like this, you better make sure you're getting some sick footy. And the best way to do that is with one of these. Until recently, drones were completely illegal in Oman, but with a recent law change, you can now bring them in with strict permitting. So when you land, they scan your bag, and if they see you have a drone, they take your passport and escort you directly to an agent. We spent a full hour answering questions, and right when we were asking ourselves if the trip was over before it even began, they told us okay, said everything looked good, sent us on our way. So we got the rental car, and the fun began. Destination 1 was the capital city of Muscat, the hidden jewel. Our first priority was authentic Middle Eastern food, and this is where I started to learn what the people of Oman are really like. English is the official second language of Oman, but you can still run into barriers, and that's exactly what happened with our waiter. We did our best to be polite and thank him for his patience. He was very kind, and when he brought out the food, it slapped. The shawarma style meat was good, but the real star of the show was the lebna, baba ganoush, and hummus. We were absolutely devouring it when something entirely unexpected happened. One of the hosts walks over and tells us that the man who had been sitting across from us had quietly paid for our meal and got up and left. We were stunned. So we quickly ran out the door to see if we could still catch him. I see him already in his car backing out, so I wave to get his attention. He sees me, gives me the biggest smile, waves, and then just drives off without saying a word. That was the first hint of what I was really in for the next 13 days. The next couple of days were spent taking in everything Muscat had to offer. There were a couple of things that I actually don't think I would recommend, but everything else I would say is a must-do. Here's my top 3. First is the one you might have seen before, the Grand Mosque. The biggest mosque in the country, architecture of grand scale, intricate design, and an important glimpse into the culture around us. I recommend you go on a weekday, right at 8 a.m. Just follow the dress code, because if you don't, you will not be let in. And it's also just respectful to the religion and cultural norms of the area. Second, the historic center of Muscat, Mutra. Walk along the waterfront, climb the historic fort for a view, and get lost in the absolute labyrinth of Mutra Souk, one of the oldest markets in the Arab world. Third, and my favorite one, boat tour. I had a friend who lived in Oman recommend Bandar Kayran, but that wasn't going to work because it's a no drone zone. So we did the equally stunning Ad Damaniat Islands, a place untouched. This place is so damn pretty. I mean, just look at it. Intensely blue water, brown rugged land, and an absolute legend of a boat captain. This place was great, but unfortunately something happened there that gave us a little bit of an idea that slowly took over for the rest of the trip to the point of obsession. Here's how it went down. We were anchored at a last stop, we'd flown the drones, we'd swam around, we'd even dried off to get ready to go when the captain spotted a turtle in the water. An instant later, I saw a blur race by me and frantically leap over the front of the boat. As it splashed in the water, I realized my friend Ryan had just run by me with a GoPro and jumped in for the shot. We got back and we kind of laughed at him jumping in like that, but he showed me the shot and it made me go, oh, filming animals is kind of cool, huh? He looks at me and says, dude, you have no idea. See, what you don't know about Ryan is that he's one of the best aerial videographers in the world. And he's been all over Africa getting some of the most insane footage of wildlife you will ever see. So when he said that to me about filming animals, I knew he meant it. That prompted me to say, well, what if we get some epic drone shots of wildlife while we're here? The game was on. But then we started to discuss why this was going to be so difficult. First, we were in the desert. What wildlife does the desert have besides like camels? Okay, camels it is. That actually sounds pretty cool. But now there's another problem. Camels are nomadic. They are nature's perfect travel machines, so you can't just go somewhere and expect that there will be camels. And even if we could, we had a bigger problem. Drone flights in Oman are strictly regulated, and they are restricted to small fly zones dotted across the country. So we couldn't just wander freely and fly a drone if we happen to see camels. It had to be in a fly zone. We were chasing a miracle. So, with Muscat explored and this idea for the perfect shot looming in our minds, it was time to leave the ocean side and see what we could go find in the... Wait! Alright, so this is my real number one thing you need to do in Muscat. Sort of. It's my food recommendation for the area, and it's not optional. Go to a place that on Google Maps is called Pakistani Naan. You'll know you're in the right place when you go to drive there if you make the final turn and you're on a dirt alleyway. That's it. Get the chicken cheese naan and a skewer of your choice from the place next door. It costs like $3 US. By the way, Oman in general is less expensive than the US. You'll love the food. But like I was saying, it was time for new experiences. So we left the ocean side to go see what we can find in the mountains of Oman, a place untamed. I had heard that this place had pretty dramatic views, but sometimes reality doesn't live up to expectations. So we first tested the hype by going to another place that was recommended by my friend who lived there. She described it as her special place. Must be pretty cool. A place with centuries-old, traditionally constructed homes, a lush oasis set against the backdrop of harsh mountains, and little water canals that have been masterfully directed throughout the entire city to bring life where there otherwise would be none. We got there and yeah, she was absolutely right. It's a village of Misfat al-Abreen. If you're in Oman, which by the way, go to Oman, it's definitely worth making the drive for this one. Just be especially respectful while you're there because people still live there. And we were just lucky enough to get a glimpse into their way of life. This was an amazing place, but there's one coming up that I think might beat it. Before we got there though, there's a few other things in the area that I think are worth it. First is Nizwa, the ancient capital of Oman dating back to the 6th century. The main attraction is a massive fort that doubles as a museum, so you can learn about its storied history. They allow you to walk through the entire fort, including the top of the tower, for an amazing viewpoint of the entire city. Make sure you go to nearby Birkat al-Muz for some pretty incredible hillside ruins. You can wander them freely, and a short climb will reward you with another pretty great view. My food recommendation for this area is probably one of the best coffee shops in the world. A title I'm giving it partially because of its unmatched setting. It's in Al-Hamra, the larger town near Misfat al-Abreen. Go to this dirt parking lot, walk these paths through a calm, peaceful farm, and into this building, which is Cafe Masca. The staff was awesome, and at their recommendation, I ordered the house cold brew that they're known for. It's lightly sweetened, with a hint of chocolate and blueberries, and damn was it good. As we sipped, we sat back, relaxed, and took in the scene in front of us. Green, shady date palms, enveloping plots of land cultivated by hand tools. In the distance, the ever-present, jagged desert hills to give you an idea of the unyielding people that have made a life here for centuries. It was a moment of small serenity before the absolutely massive scale of what we were about to experience next. Our last stop required some elevation. 2 hours of winding cliffside cutbacks to get to the highest point of the Arabian Peninsula. It's so far above the rest of Oman, it has its own climate, and as the air turned cold, we could tell we were getting near the top. We came around the final cutback, and we got a first glimpse of Jebel Shams, the mountain of the sun. Alright, so I'll admit, at only 9,000 feet, the mountain itself might not be all that impressive, but what makes this a truly special thing to see is the absolutely massive canyon that's carved directly into it. The highest point in the country has a 1,000 meter drop off directly next to it, 2/3 of a mile straight down. This thing could eat the Burj Khalifa and have room left over. Now, I've seen the Grand Canyon multiple times, but I don't remember feeling quite the same sense of awe as they did at Jebel Shams. It was so amazing that, of course, we were going to film for a bit, but at some point, without even realizing it, we turned the cameras off, we set them down, and we just admired in silence. The colossal sense of scale and that silent, cold mountain air is something I don't think I'll ever forget. It's an experience you don't have very often. we eventually had our fair share of the view and decided we should probably drive back down before dark. We were driving uneventfully for a while, but something happened that reminded us of a goal we'd almost forgotten. We came around a bend to come face to face with a camel on the road. For half a second, we scrambled for our drones, but then we realized it's a no-fly zone. Should we risk it? We thought about it, but ultimately decided it's better to just respect the laws of a place that had been so welcoming to us. So we kept driving. Plus, the shot that we imagined was an entire herd of them somewhere with an amazing landscape, not just a single camel on a road. So for now, the hunt was still on. We had one more week left in Oman at this point, and in a few days, we would be in a place that would give us the best chance of the entire trip to get the shot of the camels that we were hoping for. So for now, though, we went home for some sleep because in the morning, we were gonna get wet. We woke up at sunrise, packed the GoPro. Well, I used DJI. I like it better. And we set off to buy our tickets for a boat taxi to try something that Oman is probably best known for, at least on Instagram. The Wadis, a desert refuge. The most popular by far is Wadi Shab. The reason I think it's so popular is because just getting there is an adventure by itself. You take a boat taxi to the mouth of a canyon, you start hiking. You'll climb through massive boulders, narrow paths, and cliffside cutouts. Eventually, you'll get to a big pool of crystal clear water, and it's time to start swimming. Be prepared because it's sort of a long swim, and you're not touching the ground. It's pretty deep. And if you're claustrophobic, this is probably as far as you go, because the end of the pool is blocked by a wall of gigantic boulders, and the one way through is a narrow crevice just barely big enough to fit your head. So to keep going, you will be treading water through a dark, narrow cave barely big enough to fit. If you can stomach that and make it through, you'll be rewarded with the final obstacle. The cave opens up to a spacious cavern, and directly across, you'll see a waterfall cascading through a small opening of sunlight. We grabbed the rope, kept our footing during the climb, and squeezed through the opening at the top. As we broke into the open air, we were greeted with the most peaceful, calm little oasis of crystal clear blue water. And what's more, we were the only people there. Wadi Shab is awesome, and I recommend it, but there's another wadi that we did that I think is a lot better. But first, we spent a day driving down the coast to check out the town of Sur. We didn't spend a lot of time here, but we did find an abandoned watchtower, which we promptly climbed. We pulled the drones out and had a lot of fun filming. I got this really cool shot. And this one. And this one. Dinner that night was a roadside Dinner that night was a roadside stop that had a surprising number of reviews. Great reviews. I sit down, crack open the English menu, and one single word catches my eye. Camel. You're telling me I can get one of these on a plate to eat before I can even get the chance to film it? I ordered the camel. It was not bad. Also, here's an interesting cultural difference in Oman is that restaurants have two sections for seating. One that's considered normal for Westerners, tables out in the open where you just sit down with your group, and one that is for traditional Omani dining, which is in a private sort of cubicle where families often sit on the floor to eat. Still a long-standing tradition. The next day, though, was another early one because we had to get back to the mountains to go see Wadi Hawar. This one was a bit different. The canyon is wide open, but apparently enough people get lost because there's so many giant boulders and winding paths that it's kind of easy to lose your way. So we hired a local guide, our new friend, Wiser. This guy's a badass. At one point, he was climbing barefoot with a drone, a gimbal, cameras, water, lunch for all of us, and some coffee.
More good.
After a couple of climbs and a couple of swims, we made it to one of the prettiest places I have ever seen on this earth. Double natural swimming pools of emerald clear green water. I've never seen water look like this. And against the tan desert rock of the canyon, it was unreal. We had fun swimming, and then Huwaiser taught us the perfect Arabic word for sending it off the cliffs.
Yalla.
And then we sat down for a meal together that would probably end up being my favorite meal of the entire trip. The meal itself was pretty simple. It was a mix of fresh fruit, dates, and coffee. But like most great meals, it was the people that made the difference. We were able to ask Weiser about himself and his culture. While he was talking, I noticed that he had a handful of dates that he kept mashing up with his hand. And when I asked him about it, he showed us it was just a really good way to get the pits out, a common way to eat it there. We then tried the fruit, and it's good to a frustrating degree. Like, it was maddening to know that I would not be able to get fruit this good anywhere in America. He went on to explain that the fruit was from his own little farm, a very common thing to have in Oman. He said that most communities had pretty easy access to fresh produce. There's something so grounding and human about sharing a meal with somebody in their land. It's probably one of the oldest human rituals that we have, and it's something I truly enjoy. There was a moment during the meal when somebody made a joke and we all laughed with sticky hands, and as we were laughing, I just remember thinking, I'll remember this one. So the day came for us to leave northern Oman and head south, and there was one stop along the way that we were all excited for. We'd been driving for a while, and almost out of nowhere, the landscape changes from rough, rocky ground to a vast, smooth sea of the Wahiba Sands, a shifting sea. A massive dune desert stretching 4,800 square miles. It's actually known to the locals as the Sharqiya Sands. The name Wahiba comes from the local tribe of Bedouins who have inhabited that area for generations now, and they actually still live there to this day. All right, so there's a lot of places on Earth that have a big dune desert, but what makes Wahiba really unique is that the dunes form in these massive veins running parallel, basically north and south. You can actually see them on maps, and they seemed big, but I was not ready for just how big. So we drove down the valley of one of these massive veins, parked, just started climbing. We reached the top of the hill thinking that we would see the valley on the other side, but in front of us was just more dunes. That was the moment that I realized just how endless this desert is. Endless and beautiful. The sun had just broken through the clouds and was starting to set, creating this orange light amplified by the glowing of the orange sand all around us. I found myself surprised at just how pretty a dry, empty land could be. In my mind, I noted that it was empty of both humans and camels, which was a shame because this area was our best chance to see a group of them. But that was okay because at that moment, I wasn't going to let anything distract me from one of the best sunsets I've ever seen. As the sun fell below the horizon, we started the 8-hour drive to Salalah, the largest city in southern Oman. I'm starting this area with my food recommendation because after that late night drive, we desperately needed a slow morning to recharge. We found a place that was right on the beach, and it's exactly what we needed. We got shakshuka topped with a layer of melted cheese, karak chai French toast that was cubed and bruleed, and a latte that was a freaking good latte. This little gym was called Huraf Cafe. Go there if you're in Salalah. So for now, we just went looking for beaches and other dramatic landscape. We had to do it fairly quick because we were down to our last 2 days. The first stop required us to drive closer to the border of Yemen through a military checkpoint. We slowly rolled through, passing Humvees with mounted turrets, and we stopped at the armed soldier who was checking cars. When we asked if we were able to get through, he smiled and said yes. This clearly was not Ryan's first rodeo though, because he then asked, are we going to have any problems getting back through? Something I hadn't even thought to ask. The soldier gives us an even bigger, kinder smile and reassures us that we'll have no problems, we'll be able to get back through. So I'm sitting in the back seat, and as we pull through, he and I make eye contact, and then I realize I've seen that smile before. It's the guy who paid for our dinner. Nah, I'm just kidding, but that'd be pretty crazy though. Soon after, we made it to our first destination for the day, a foul beach. If you want a beautiful, empty, secluded beach with a pretty amazing landscape, this is the one. We had our fun and then continued on to Jebel Shat. You can drive directly along the beachside cliffs here. It's pretty cool. It was a good little thrill standing on the edge, but once we were done, it was time to head back because our last day was coming up. So our last day in Oman, we started it with another luscious breakfast at Cafe Huraf. It was that good. We headed out to what we were hoping would be an epic drone spot. We had heard that there was a mountain with a big cliff, and if the weather was right, then clouds would settle in just below the cliff, creating this massive, fluffy white ocean. So we pack everything up, check out of our stay, and make the drive to the cliff. And the clouds were too high. So no sea of clouds effect, but it was still a good view. So we flew the drones, talked to a local who asked us about America, but our flight was coming up, so we had to pack it up and leave. We make it down the canyon and then realize we have a decision to make. We can either turn right and head back towards Salalah and the airport, or we can turn left and head to one last fly zone and see what we could find there. We were all tired and it had been a long trip, but we thought we've come all this way, we may as well just go get some extra footage. Could be a cool place. We get inside the zone, and as we take a curve around a low rolling hill, we see movement in the distance. Camels. Big ol' herd of fucking camels. But they're already walking away. If they decide to run, it's over. And even if we did get the drone out in time, they might run at the sound of it, which means we could only have one chance at this. We turn the drones on, but something is wrong with Ryan's. So he turns to me and says, "You film them, I'll try to figure this out." The guy who's been piloting drones for 10 years is telling the dude with 2 weeks of experience to get the shot. I take off, check my settings, and as I hit record, I have a thought occur to me that I almost don't want to listen to. Are we really gonna do this? Did all 3 things come together? We wanted a big group of them in a fly zone with an epic setting. Was this an epic setting? I don't know. You tell me. We had done it and we couldn't believe it. Ryan was actually able to get his drone working, so we both got a lot of great shots. The camels didn't run away, luckily. It was just a rush. It was so cool that it came together right before our flights. And we rode that high all the way to the airport, where we did cut it a little close on time, but we caught our separate flights. Ryan and his wife off to Seychelles, me off to Bangkok. And on that long flight, I had time to reflect on something I had been feeling for the past 2 weeks. It was a feeling that had gotten stronger with each day in Oman. I just couldn't quite think of a word for it. I had seen and experienced amazing things. I had interacted with people from a vastly different culture than me, but they had made a stranger feel welcome because they recognized that we really aren't that different. It was life-changing, but not in that way. Like, my day-to-day hasn't actually changed, but somehow everything is different. I'm going to call it a type 2 life change. That's what I found in Oman. An experience so profound and different that I feel like I just know too much now for my life to really be the same.